Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. And this summer, 2016, certainly seems to be shaping up as the summer of the 777 ritual. Because 7 is a magical number, and when exploring these subjects of the so-called Illuminati, or the shadow controllers, we need to understand what we're up against. And on the highest level, on the apex of the pyramid of this structure, for this beast system, are the highest level of Satanists, high-level Freemasons, witches, warlocks. I know, it sounds crazy, but these are the ways that we have to uncover their plans. They use gematria, or numerology. They rely heavily on the language of symbols. So for many of you, you're already familiar with all the symbols that come along with this so-called beast system, or with the Illuminati. But I always keep in mind that there's new people showing up to the videos, so I'm just going to segue quickly here and show you something real fast. To me, this is a prime example of what the Illuminati is now, and how all these symbols that they use, these go all the way back to Babylon, the Assyrians, the Sumerians. And throughout our history, these symbols have been showing up all around the world. This here is from one of my personal favorite websites, just because I trust this person, and they've been around for a very long time. I myself have been on YouTube for 6 years, and for about 3 years before that, I was making websites, I made a movie, so I was out there trying to show this stuff to people as well in my own way. And even back then, I remember Vigilant Citizen being around, and I'd check out the site here, and I always had a lot of respect. This right here has to do with Astana, which is in Kazakhstan. I've covered this in some videos throughout the years as well. I know a lot of other people have covered this also. And it's a really solid way to show people who are ignorant of this kind of stuff just how real it is. I'll just show you a few of the pictures here, but of course we have the Pyramid of Peace. Remember that the pyramid is our enemy. Just another quick example, this is the Opera House, but what you look up there on the ceiling, you'll see the massive sun symbol. And we always find the sun symbol associated with this beast system, with these high-level Masons. And this works on a few different levels. On one level, they're literally sun worshippers, S-U-N. By extension, they're worshipping the light, and by extension of that, they are literally worshipping Lucifer. And yet on another level, bringing up this sun worship, S-O-N-S-U-N, this goes back to a mockery of the Messiah. This goes back to that idea that a lot of people put out there that Jesus is Horus, that Jesus never really existed. He's just an amalgamation of all these other myths that came before him. I've done videos debunking that. I know a lot of other people have done videos debunking that theory as well. But unfortunately, it still sticks. There are lots and lots of people out there that still buy this as an official story, and they'll completely discount the Messiah altogether. And there is a lot of deception around the whole story. We realize this. We're living in a world filled of lies. I don't want to get so much into the subject here in this video, but even this, I understand that Jesus was not his real name. We know this came from Rome. Once Rome got a hold of what Christianity was at the time, they certainly mutated it into what we have now, which is why we have so many pagan connections now to the Christian religion of today. But as I always say, no religion, just relationship. So let me put the cherry on top of the sundae, so to speak, with this. And you can go to Google Earth. You can put in Astana, Kazakhstan. I actually just got the coordinates. You can find the coordinates online. And just press search on that. And let's see what happens. And right there you have it. What do you see? This is on Google Earth. I didn't Photoshop this in or anything like that. You guys can look all this up for yourself. See the coordinates right here. And we have a massive pentagram. So of course the 5-pointed star right side up represents man, and then the 5-pointed star upside down is the Baphomet, or the devil. So back to the number 7, it really does keep popping up all over the place. Even right now, we're in the month of July, which is the 7. And on the 7th day of this month, we had the Dallas shootings, or the Dallas event. And then yesterday, on the 14th of July of 7, so 7/14, we had the France event. We had the attack, or the event, in France, at Nice. And once again, on the 21st of this month, coming up in just a few days, so that's the 7th month, the 21st day, will be the last day of the Republican National Convention. And then just to take it one step further, we have more 7s at 7/28. So on the 28th day of the 7th month, we're the last day of the Democratic National Convention. Now here's just another example of the symbolism. Some of you may not be aware of this, some of you may be, but just a few years ago the Republican Party actually changed their logo. As you can see right here, at one point, it's always been the elephant, but at one point it was the elephant with the stars right side up. Just a few years ago they decided to flip them upside down. So again we find the pentagram. And please understand, I'm not just saying that all Republicans are bad or it's just the Republican Party, it's the whole system. And all this stuff's being revealed. All of it's coming out. Whether you do it or I do it or anybody else, everything's coming out right now. And the language of symbols is a very real language. It takes place right in front of our face, and so few people still see it. It's the same idea applies to gang members. Gang members will tag all kinds of symbols and coded language all over the place in their cities. And they code things so that the police can't understand what they're talking about, or really anybody else. Only the people involved in the gang understand the codes. So continuing on with the 7s, now we have the attack in France. This just happened on the 14th, as I was saying. So not only was it a 7 and a 14, and we have the 7 connections again, but it happened on 7/14/2016. In its most basic form, if you break those numbers down, you come up with a 21. And please understand, this stuff is not a coincidence. As I was saying earlier, we're dealing with people who know the power of numerology. All this stuff connects with their rituals. And you will find the number 7 connected with a lot of these events. So that brings the question, how real are these events, and how much of it's fake, and how much of it's hoax, and how much of it's mind control. I personally think it's really a mix of all of it. And I also think that things are happening here spiritually a lot of the time because of these connections with the 7s and all of these massive events. So regardless of how real or fake any of these events are, it's about the end game. Why are they doing this? What do they hope to achieve? And that, of course, is order out of chaos. Everything that's happening right now is pushing us further into a real New World Order, the 5th age, the last age of man. One world monetary system, one world government, one world leader, one world religion, all of it. But we're at a point right now where so much of this stuff has been revealed that if you really look into it for yourself, don't just trust people making videos and writing books and everything else. Use all these resources. But when you really start looking into this stuff for yourself, it's a real eye-opener. It'll completely and totally change your reality. Now, many of you are familiar with this image, and this is from the cover of The Economist magazine for 2016, which I might add is a Rothschild-owned magazine. The Rothschilds, of course, are an Illuminati bloodline family. I decoded a lot of this, many of you have decoded a lot of this, and I think all of us were right, and that's what's amazing with things like this. This is a great example of the language of symbols, predictive programming, also lesser magic. These are spiritual storyboards. I'm going to give you a few examples here. First off, let's take a look over there on the far right at the flag that fella right there is holding up. So what you're looking at is the double-headed eagle of Lagash, or the phoenix of the Freemasons. According to Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree Freemason, what is being depicted in this most important symbol is actually a double-headed phoenix, not an eagle. He wrote, "Among the ancients, a fabulous bird called the phoenix is described by early writers. In size and shape it resembles the eagle, but with certain differences. The phoenix, it is said, lives for 500 years, and at its death its body opens and the newborn phoenix emerges. Because of this symbolism, the phoenix is generally regarded as representing immortality and resurrection. The phoenix is one sign of the secret orders of the ancient world and the initiate of those orders, for it was common to refer to one who had been accepted into the temples as a man twice born or reborn. Wisdom confers a new life, and those who become wise are born again. And that is illumination. This is back to the Illuminati, the idea of a certain form of enlightenment that the masses do not have. It's also interesting that that symbol and that flag is above the entire New World Order system, perhaps hinting at the massive destruction to come all around the world, and then the beginning of the Fifth Age, of the New World Order, the real beginning, once they truly take control. Interesting as well that the flag seems to be planted in a man's head, holding up a sign, freedom. And then just to the other side of the man holding the freedom sign, this is interesting, I thought, but you have Ronald Reagan here with the red kind of tape coming out of the back of his head talking about bonds. I wasn't even thinking about the bonds when I saw this. I was just looking at the red coming out of the back of his head, and of course you know there was an assassination attempt on Reagan. So I know many people have theorized that perhaps this is a symbol for a coming presidential assassination, perhaps on Obama. So back to the number 7, there's something else I wanted to show you on this cover. So we have a front row and then we have a back row there. Look at the back row and look at the person second to the left. Her name is Christine Lagarde, and she's the spokesperson for the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, which is yet another so-called Illuminati organization. So you can look this up for yourself if you like and listen to everything she says for yourselves. Remember, all of these people are occultists on these higher levels. They're occultists. And there's plenty of people, I think, that work alongside with them and even underneath them that probably have no clue of what's really going on. It's just a select few that have this insider information. And again, they reveal themselves through their words. And then once again, in this case with her, they reveal themselves, if you're just paying attention. Not long ago, she was speaking to the press, and she was talking all about the number 7. So you can check this out again for yourself, like I said. But I'll just kind of go through a little bit of it and how she started off. So in this instance, when she first got to stage, she said, "I do what I'm told." That was interesting. And then she launches into all this talk about the number 7. She says, "Now I'm going to test your numerology skills by asking you to think about the magic 7. Most of you will know that 7 is quite a number. 2014, you drop the 0, 14 2 times, 7. It will mark the 70th anniversary. It will mark the 70th anniversary, drop the 0, 7 of the Bretton Woods Conference that actually gave birth to the IMF. 7 plus 0 equals 7. And it will be the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. 25th, 2 plus 5 is 7. It will also mark the 7th anniversary of the financial market jitters. After those 7 miserable years, weak and fragile, we have 7 strong years." And at the end, she said, "Now I don't know if the G7 will have anything to do with it." It went on about that for a little bit, but of course the G, numerically, it's the number 7. Now back to that spiritual sounding board, the cover of The Economist 2016. I want to show you a great example here of predictive programming on that. First and foremost, I'm not the original person who found this information. I saw this over on New World Order Agenda YouTube channel a while back, and I think maybe one other person has covered it. So no, I did not find this originally, but it's so worthy of a share. It's an amazing find. And this goes back to the Pulse shooting, or the Pulse event, the gay club in Florida. And of course we can see the LGBT American flag there, right? Now we just go above that a little bit and you can see there's a gun that's resting on Justin Trudeau's shoulder. I don't think Justin Trudeau has anything to do with this, but he's just in the frame, right? But look on his shoulder and you'll see the gun. And just behind the gun, what do we have? Stereotypical looking jihadist, you could say, right? So we got the connection to Islam, or the jihadists holding the gun, and look at exactly where it's pointing. It's aimed right at the LGBT American flag. Predictive programming. Lesser magic. Then of course another example of these 7s showing up around one of these rituals or events. It's from the Dallas shooting that happened on the 7th day of July 2016. So again you've got the 7, and then the 16. 6 plus 1 is 7. So we have another 7 777. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, man. I mean, it really feels like every few days there's a new massive event or a shooting or something, doesn't it? So I think it's even more interesting that all this stuff is happening right around the beginning of the annual Bohemian Grove meeting in California. Most of you know what this is, some of you don't, but in case you're unaware, this is where all basically the leaders of industry all around the world, people at the highest positions of the military, presidents, and other very high-level politicians all meet here every summer in California for a few weeks where they do these rituals. Again, just another example of what we're really up against. It's not just a bunch of politicians in suits. We're dealing with occultists on the highest level. But isn't it interesting that all this stuff seems to be happening right now, right around the time these guys are meeting up to perform their rituals? Here's something else I'll add into that. Like I said, there's so many different things happening, right? There's so many different pieces of this machine at work, it seems. But just yesterday, in several different states, people were seeing this up in the skies. It's Rise, right? Hashtag Rise. So, of course, you had people online just going crazy with this, trying to figure out what it means. You know, what's the message? Who are they talking to? But then it turns out that it actually had to do with the promotion of Katy Perry's new album and new song, Rise. So for most people, they would write it off, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. However, when dealing with these occultists, like Katy Perry, and again, she is not, a member of the Illuminati or the Bloodlines or anything like that. I don't believe that. Just like most of these so-called Illuminati artists, that's all they are. They're pawns. They're tools. They're the Pied Pipers. They keep the masses entertained and dumbed down while the real controllers are controlling and making their moves in the shadows. So when dealing with these occultists, oftentimes we have to look below the surface to see what it is they're really trying to tell us. So when I started seeing all these stories about the word rise showing up in all the skies, I immediately thought back to the Batman film, The Dark Knight Rises. Rise. Again, this is an occult language. They deal with symbols, patterns, synchronicities, numbers. And ultimately all of these tools of the Illuminati, so to speak, this is what they're waiting on. They want the enemy to rise, the Antichrist to rise. They want the people to rise. That takes us back to the Freemasons' Phoenix. It's all about rising, right? Rising from the ashes of the destruction. And this promotion of Rise just happens to come out right around the time of the Day of Rage, which is today, July 15th, 2016. Are you seeing the connections I'm making? These are just my thoughts when I see these kinds of things. And of course we have another 777 event coming up, and that's the Together Reset at the National Mall in Washington. There's so much symbolism attached to this event, it's just crazy. And there's a lot of obvious stuff as well. The Pope is involved with this. There's also tons of so-called Christian artists that are going to be performing there. And if you take the time and look at some of these artists, just do a little Google search, put in the artist's name and type in Illuminati or something like this, and you'll see that several of these artists put out a lot of this Illuminati symbolism. So again, this is supposed to be a meeting of all these different Christian groups all throughout America coming together, right? And of course the Pope has signed off on this as well. He's involved in one level or another. But the most obvious symbolism to me is where this is taking place. Right in front of the Washington Monument, which is literally symbolic for Osiris's penis. And connected with that mythology goes back again to that idea that these occultists love to push forward, that Jesus is Horus, Christ never existed. So here they have all these, quote, Christian groups showing up right in front of one of the biggest mockeries of Jesus Christ ever, to try to bring the people together, right? But for what? All of this is connected back to the New World Order, to bringing all the religions together into one. This is why on my channel for many years I've always said that I'm not a big fan of organized religion. I believe in having your own personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ. We're facing the end of the church age, and this is exactly what I see when I see things like this happening. The end of the fourth age, they're getting ready for the fifth. As I said, there's a lot of different symbolism around this whole event. I mean, of course, again, you see the 777 there, 7, 16, and 16. They also have a lot of the red and blue color codes. I've covered that in some other videos as well. But that's just a minor observance. The real symbolism I want to show you is right down here. If you go to the website here, the Together website, and you just scroll down, just scroll on down. You see all the red and the blue, right? But there's scroll on down. Go to the very bottom right-hand corner. And what do you see down there in the very bottom right-hand corner? That's right, we have the obvious 666 hand symbols, right? But there's actually more going on there. Because if you look at the symbolism in that corner, they had one of the hands right side up and the other one was upside down, and that forms the 69. This is the Freemason Royal Arch. And what do you see up there? But it's the 69, the sign of Cancer. And the reason the signs appear to be going in the wrong direction is that we are looking into the, quote, temple from the outside. Notice there's also a cluster of 7 stars that float below the keystone, which is symbolic of the Pleiades. So it certainly seems to be the summer of the sevens, right? The summer of the 777 rituals. These are fascinating times we're in, folks, and things are moving really quick towards this New World Order. Have your personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ. I'm not telling you what to do, but this is what I believe. I hope that helps you. If not, you can at least be aware of the times we're in and what's happening. I think as all this stuff heats up and people really start seeing all this take place and we literally start entering the age of Aquarius, it's going to become so obvious. So those fence sitters, those people that are lukewarm, I think are eventually going to be forced to choose a side. Ultimately, that's what all this stuff goes back to, is our spirituality, or the great battle between God and the devil, and our roles in between. Thanks for checking out the video, folks. Take care of each other out there, stay aware, and I'll talk to you real soon. Luckily, we've got Pokemon Go to keep us occupied, so we don't have to think about all this stuff. Stuck in a virtual prison, chasing around imaginary creatures while the New World Order quickly approaches.